And moving on to the bottom part of the bracket, we have James Bake, Enrique Grimaldo, Alex Rubinoff.
Alright, I guess I can just start recording here. So, today, new video, and as promised, not this. Alright, here. This is the team that I used that got me to qualify for top 16 in the NA region. It consists of Torkoal, Venusaur, Indeedee Female, Regieleki, Porygon 2, and Registeel. So, it's somewhat of a standard team, however, I did go through the thought process of building it all through myself. I didn't just say, oh, something's good, I like it. It's mainly because Venusaur is my favorite Pokemon, and I just modeled the team I thought would function best with it and came up with this for PC4. So, I'll go over the EV spreads I used throughout the tourney a few months ago, and we'll just go from there. I guess I'll go into this Torkoal spread. So, usually I go for more offensive Torkoal. However, this time I went for a defensive one because in Series 8 I didn't really feel like offensive was really working all that well for me, and I feel like it was just awkward to have this offensive piece, but it's hard to position it if you get higher up on ladder because it's not as easy as, oh, I want to set Trick Room and then I want to constantly click Eruption. I feel like more adept players would know how to handle it, and so I feel like the defensive one is more efficacious. So, I have Protect and Yawn, so I can put the opponent to sleep in the following tournament. I can just safely Protect to mitigate any damage if it's Dynamax, or just completely block it if, or not Dynamax, except if it's Urshifu. And then I went for Heat Wave and Body Press. I like Body Press more than Earth Power because if I have Earth Power, then Instant can just spam Parting Shot relatively freely and then they could wall me out in the end. But Body Press, Fire, and Fighting coverage I feel like is really good at covering a good amount of things. So I feel like if I were to have my opponent fall asleep in the endgame, if it was just Torkoal versus Vermont, I feel like I would be able to come out winning in most scenarios with just Torkoal with Yawn, which is why I like it. So the spread in particular, you see it's a more defensive one. So I went with the relaxed one. You should always go for minus speed nature in my opinion because I feel like it's best to have a Torkoal that functions in TR, so you have something for Amoonguss personally. But I wanted somewhat of a strong body press. I think what I had originally is I went modest with 44, and I did it like this, where I had 116, I just had 4 EVs because I can't put it anywhere except into attack, which wouldn't make any sense, and I had it as it was quiet nature. And you'll see here 132, yeah, bump number, and I have 66 right here. However, what damage calc do I need 132 special attack for with Heat Wave? Nothing is what I figured out. It just didn't really make any sense. So I figured having a stronger body press would overall just be the smarter choice because I'm able to do more damage with body press, and I feel like that would win me more in games than a Heat Wave because defense stats higher than the special attack. I guess there's the stab and the sun, but sun might not be up, and there could be rain and a whole bunch of other conditions. Body press just felt more reliable. And there was a calc. I'm not exactly sure if it is completely correct, but 2 body presses, so if I did body press and then Vine Lash happened, then the consecutive body press would be able to KO Incineroars, which is why I like standard Incineroars, which is why I like this spread right here. For the HP number, I like 175 because that way I take less chip from weather, from sandstorm and whatnot, and I don't have any grassy terrain. I know Rillaboom's common, so it could make sense to go for 244 as well. However, I just find that 236 is better for me as of right now. And as for the 108, so these numbers come in clutch so much because you live when it was around Max Geyser from Life Orb Lapras, which I find to be Dynamax Life Orb or Gmax Life Orb Lapras, which I find to be really nice. I think it was 252 special attack. I could be wrong. And what else? You also live Helping Hand Max Quake from a Life Orb Venusaur, but you also live the Helping Hand Max Ooze from G-Max Venusaur, which I think is what I made the spread off of, and those were the main two things I calced for. But overall, I find the spread to be super clutch so many times. I like it a lot. The only thing that I would change is potentially 244 over 236, and I can mess around with calcs and see if I like the 244 more. But I feel like this is the best spread for Torkoal for me and for my taste. So moving on to the next Pokemon, Venusaur. So the Venusaur spread here, you'll notice, is a lot more bulkier than other Venusaurs, because they usually go with 212, or was it 204? I think, yeah, 204 speed. It'll be like 24 speed, and then it'll be 28 defense. But I wanted to go, it was 140, I believe. Yes. Speed. Because with Venusaur, there's a whole lot of Leather Ball Venusaur with, I think it was Grim Venu, but it was somewhat popular. And that not confused me, but worried me. Because I just feel like I'm going to be losing speed ties with Venusaurs in most cases, because you can't really tell what the speed stat is. Most people like to go 204, that way base 100s can outspeed them after a +1, given that you're in the sun. So I just felt that I would accept the fact that I would lose every speed tie that I wasn't in Trick Room in, but I would basically win every single one that I had under Trick Room, and that was my thought process. The speed, by the way, you're able to outspeed both Landorus and Moltres Galarian if they're at +1 speed and you're in the sun, which I find to be good enough. I don't really need to worry about base 100s. If they do come up, I feel like it would be nice to be able to outspeed stuff like Charizard and other base 100s, but they're not. It wasn't relevant that much to me in series. It was 9 where I felt worried about it. This is just simply a bump number. I get 2 extra stats, so 156 it was. I liked it. And then I went specifically 12 special defense, because if I get a max Quake boost, 122 times 1.5, I'm going to get a number that doesn't have any decimals in it. Like, I'm not going to get 0.5, for example. So I'd rather have 12 over 4, because that way I'm optimizing my special defense if I were to ever get a boost from a max Quake. And then the Life Orb chip is the HP number and whatnot. If you have HP numbers that end in 9, you take less Life Orb chip. I can go over explaining it, but I feel like for the people who are actually going to watch this stuff, I don't need to. In the future, maybe. If that's something you should comment about, though, if you actually care about how the HP numbers work. But I don't think it matters that much. As for the defensive investment, it does serve a purpose. So when I have Torkoal Sun up, Instant Flare Blitz is notoriously annoying to go up against, because it's so annoying if you just have your Venusaur Dynamaxed and you're in the sun, and then Incineroar says, okay, I can OHKO you with Flare Blitz. But this spread is made specifically to where you don't need to worry about that. You could actually go 76 even, and potentially even less. It may have been 68 where you could still survive it. But the reason why I go 92 is after the Life Orb tick. I live non-Life Orb Glastrier, which I found to be really helpful. So if I were just Dynamax Venusaur full health and I take a little bit of Life Orb chip and they try to retaliate back with a max Hailstorm, I end up living that, and I think I can take even 2 Life Orb ticks potentially, which is why I liked this spread overall with the defensive nature more. There was this match I had against James Bayek during the Swiss rounds before we made Top Cut, and that was a really close game. I wish he would have posted it. I didn't have the capture card, but he had this turn where I had Venusaur out, and I wasn't cognizant of his Entei with extreme speed, or maybe I was, but point being, he uses extreme speed on Venusaur, and it just casually lives like with 2 to 12 HP, and I was just so happy with my EV spread. It definitely helped. He made a good EV spread choice too, which caused him to win the set, but it is what it is. It was fun though. So that's the Venusaur spread. I guess I can go into the move set. Basically, Sleep Powder, Leaf Storm, Earth Power, Sludge Bomb, pretty standard. You could go with Protect over Sleep Powder, or you could have Sleep Powder and Protect and get rid of Earth Power, Sludge Bomb. You need Leaf Storm. Are you really going to run Venusaur and not use its G-Max move? Exactly. So, Leaf Storm, you can run Frenzy Plant, but I always use Venusaur outside of Dynamax, so I prefer, not always, but I typically am able to have it around outside of it, and I'd rather fire a Leaf Storm than a Frenzy Plant, in my opinion, because I'd feel awkward if I were to just sit around. That could change over time. I definitely could switch to Frenzy Plant in the future because I plan on using Venusaur as long as Sword and Shield VGC is around with Dynamax, and I don't get bored of it, because in Series 10 I didn't want to use Venusaur because I was feeling a little bit burnt out, and I had this accomplishment that I felt like I could take a break since I didn't think Series 10 would really amount to anything, since I feel like we're just going to stick to Dynamax from now on. And Earth Power for Colossal, Sludge Bomb. Sludge Bomb is good, I just like it into Rillaboom other grass types, pretty simple stuff, and it does good damage into Opposing Fairies as well, like Grimmsnarl. I don't like Weather Ball personally because I feel like it can get changed around a good bit with rain, even though it's not common, sand, stuff like that. It's not bad, it's just for my team, I personally like Sludge Bomb more. Next mod, Indeedee. The spread here is really basic. I'll go into level 50 because you'll just see that HP is just multiple 16, so if I do face a Rillaboom, I can take advantage of returning, I get more optimal recovery. I always go max defense because whenever I have max defense, I have good rolls against living. Behemoth Blade from Zacian, it's not applicable right anymore, but because Zacian wasn't in this format, however, it wasn't in Series 9, it's in Series 10. Sorry, I know, unscripted video. You'd imagine I'd come up with a script, but nope, I just ended up going unscripted. Who cares? Why am I talking still? Anyways, max defense for Vizacian rolls, which isn't even applicable in this series. However, in DD, I just felt was fine with this spread. I didn't feel any need to change it, to be honest. I liked the bulk on it a lot, and it helps against stuff like Urshifu as well still. So I'll go with that. Safety Goggles. I like this a lot because I like leading Indeedee Venu a lot because when you have Indeedee and Venusaur together, you don't really give much flexibility to your opponent, because you could say, Venusaur's getting a Vine Lash off here, you can't fake me out, so I could even use Sleep Powder. I could go Follow Me Sleep Powder into your potential Dynamax mod, or I could Follow Me Max my Venusaur, get a Vine Lash off, and then if Indeedee lives, and I get another Follow Me off, and then I can just get Torkoal in for free, and then Venusaur has double speed, and I'm already in such a favorable position at that point. But Safety Goggles in particular, because there are people who just lead Incineroar and Amoonguss, and then I'll go, okay, I'll use Helping Hand, Max Quake into the Incineroar, thinking that I'll be able to OHKO it because some are Shuka and some are EV and those would be able to live. But in most cases, I OHKO Incin. And what's nice about the Safety Goggles is I don't need to worry about pesky Amoonguss doing anything, because they'll think, oh, maybe I get a Spore off, but nope, I'm Safety Goggles and I get safeguarded by that shit. Helping Hand's really useful, because I can OHKO G-Max Lapras with Helping Hand, Max Fine Lash sometimes. I can OHKO a lot of Incineroars with Helping Hand, Max Quake. Whole lot of useful calcs with Helping Hand. It's such a good move. Sometimes it feels hard to implement into teams, but Indeedee is just one of those perfect mons to use Helping Hand with. I just felt like it made sense. Another thing that makes sense, Expanding Force. Yes, Psychic Terrain, why would you go for anything other than Expanding Force? I feel like these are all mandatory. The last one could be more optional. You have it has Dazzling Gleam, doesn't it? That could be okay into Urshifu's, I suppose, but you have Expanding Force. Urshifu Dark, it would be good into. I went into Mystical Fire. I felt like it would be better to support my Venusaur and other members, because if I have Mystical Fire, then I can Mystical Fire one of their D-Max mons, and then I basically just ruin their Dynamax completely, and I could just ignore it for the remaining turns if I felt like it. And it's good into damaging stuff like Ferrothorn and Kartana. It's an overall good coverage move in my opinion, and the special attack is just good at making Dynamax not that great. So there we go. That's why I went with it. I mean, I don't feel like I need to explain much else with Indeedee. Pretty self-explanatory. Oh my god. My sentences. I feel like I could barely talk. So this lucky spread's a little bit weird, so let me explain it. Protect Electrowave T-Bolt is really standard. Most people run Volt Switch, but I felt like Wild Charge was best. I felt like I could pivot fine with Indeedee, to be honest, because hard switching is fine. Most people usually just go for the super effective move, is what I notice. That's the pattern I notice. And therefore, I don't really need a Volt Switch because it's not really going to do too much. But the reason for Wild Charge is, actual reason why I want Wild Charge over Volt Switch is because, like I mentioned before, don't care too much for pivoting. I feel like, and like I also mentioned, Follow Me with Indeedee helps. But Wild Charge is really good into Feeny endgames because I can just completely ignore Feeny, and you can never set up top Feeny with Calm Mind against Vasiliki with Wild Charge now because I'll just OHKO you. So the 2-4-4 spread, if there's some sort of Tapu Fini spread that popped up on Picolytics, and it was really bulky with a bunch of HP and defense. So I went, I'll calc for doing enough damage to where I can KO the Tapu Fini after a Vine Lash tick guaranteed. So 5/6 of Tapu Fini's health wouldn't be like 83%, but it would have leftovers, so it'd get around to like 92. So this should always basically be an OHKO into Tapu Fini in most cases, but it'll do minimum like 92%, which is fine because it pairs well with the Vine Lash, and then I don't need to worry about Fini anymore in the end game because as long as I have Lucky preserved. Because you see, I don't have that great answers to it. I do have Registeel, which helps, but there really isn't much anything I can do other than maybe crit. And Wild Charge isn't just into... Holy shit. I'm tired. It's late, guys. Late. It's like 8 o'clock my time. Oh well. I'm a little bit tired. I had school today. But Wild Charge, good into Fini, but it's also good into mons like Togekiss and Moltres where they have weaker defense stats, so you're using the Wild Charge on that. You can target them on their weaker defensive side. And it's also good into Celesteela because I remember in Series 9 people were running Assault Vest Celesteela, so it was fun because Wild Charge would completely just ignore that, and then boom, I'm golden. So that's what the attack does. The special attack was basically just a dump of whatever I had over the speed. If I remember correctly, the speed was so if Nihilego was at +1 speed, let me check what its speed stat is. I think it's 170. And of course I spelled it wrong. Okay. Because if Nihilego's at +1 speed, or I'm at -1, it's either that they're at +1 or I'm at -1, I think. 255, and what am I, 257? Yeah, so they'd be 255 if they were to get +1 speed, and oh my goodness, just do divided by this number, so they'd be 170, right? I swear it's 170. Yeah, so if they're at +1 speed or if I'm at -1 speed, then I'm always guaranteed to outspeed Nihilego, which I thought would be somewhat nice. It would be just an excuse to throw this speed around because I don't really care about the speed ties that much. If I have Trick Room, I really don't care. There is one thing I would change. I would experiment with lowering the attack and special attack a little bit, and I would end up upping the speed maybe a little bit. Therefore, if Thundurus was at +1, then I could E-Webs it. That would be the one thing I would change, but I think that's it. Because Defiant Thundurus can still be a pain, but if the sun was up for whatever reason, I could use E-Web, and then following turn or something, I could use Sleep Powder into Defiant Thundurus, and I think it would work out. So, this next spread will look a little bit asinine because you're wondering what the speed is for, and it's for a really dumb reason. It's just because my friend had a shiny Porygon, and it only has 13 speed IVs when I calced it, but I wanted 76 speed because after 2 E-Webs, I can outspeed base 100s, I believe. So like if I'm facing a base 100, for example, and I get an E-Webs off, and they'd still be faster than me outside of Trick Room. But if I get another one, then I would be able to outspeed them. So if they're at -2 speed, Porygon outspeeds at 76. You could argue, oh, you should level it up and hyper train it so you can have the 31 speed IVs. It's just that sometimes I feel like having lower than 80 can be good. That way, for people who have just 31 IV, I can underspeed in Trick Room. It's stupid. I feel like I could definitely better use it, but better utilize the speed EVs. But look, it's shiny Porygon too. It looks so nice, and I feel like I would rather have 0 speed or just less than, I believe it's 80, yeah, 80 speed. I think it's worth the sacrifice, and Porygon 2 is bulky, so it's like I can afford to sacrifice it. I wish I could go 44 special attack on you. That way, if I get a special attack boost, I would get a 1.5 boost. It's possible that I did it like this, though, where I ended up having something like this. And that could have been the spread. So, what this does is, I believe with this spread, I live Policy boosted Max Steel Spike from Metagross on just like a sliver, and I'll live 2 Max Quakes from Landorus T, I believe. I'm not 100% positive on the second one, but I believe that's the case. In my opinion, the Ice and Ghost coverage is best on the Porygon 2. I feel like Tri-Attack, you get stabbed, but is it really that necessary? I prefer coverage more often, and Tri-Attack doesn't really mean much to me other than the potential RNG that you can get out of it, but I'm not wanting to rely on 20% chances. I just feel like these are just better. Therefore, Boom, Ice Beam, Shadow Ball it was. Recover, I like Recover, therefore I can set up Trick Room repeatedly, and I can be annoying with my recovery. Simple as that, really. As for the special defense, I think I live... It was something to do with Spectrier. It was like a Max Quake or a Max Strike from... It may have been helping Hand Life 4, it could have been +1 Spectrier with a special attack. I know it's not that detailed, but I recall it being something with Spectrier having a hypothetical situation where it has a shit ton of special attack and I need Trick Room up. Therefore, I can comfortably set up Trick Room and I don't need to worry about Spectrier boosting on me. So that's the spread. Alright, final spread, this Registeel. Registeel is so good. I was struggling with members because this was... So literally, all these members are the exact same, except this was Calyrex Ice whenever Series 8 was around. And when I initially started, I went, oh, I should try Metagross as kind of like Calyrex Ice, and that way I can side proc my policy with Shadow Ball, like I would side proc Calyrex's policy in Series 8. But I hate Metagross so much. I feel like you have to have Grimmsnarl to support it. Its special defense is so bad. Moltres can practically wall it. Spectrier basically walls it too, so Metagross was out. And then I went to Regirock next, and it was okay. It wasn't great, but the policy was just unreliable. It was super slow, and it didn't even do that much damage. And I was basically, with Indeedee, I can basically max Venusaur every game, and I feel like that's a viable option. You might be thinking, why would you be bringing Venusaur to every single game? It's not going to be good every single game, but oh, it's really good to basically every single game, because you have the Vine Lash, and then you're basically slowly chipping your opponents down. You just need these ticks of damage, and then you can basically finish them off with Lucky or Porygon 2 and Trick Room and stuff like that. And if you get Vader Vermon's kill, Ventorcle can yawn, stuff like that. That's why I just like it, Venusaur. And I feel like it kind of forces me to bring Venusaur into all games, which I like as well. Which sounds weird, but I like how there's... I get a good amount of control out of this team. I feel like all the members have a good purpose. But knowing that I'm basically bringing Venusaur and that I have to bring it into every single match, I feel like that helps me when deciding team members, because it just helps me customize how I feel is best for me to pair stuff up with Venusaur. I know I said that really weird, but I feel like with a little bit of less flexibility with picking your team members, it can somewhat help me in a way, because with the less flexibility, I don't need to be second guessing myself. I can be a little bit more confident behind my decisions. And that was important at the time because I feel like a large part of what holds me back is performance anxiety. I still have that somewhat. I'm getting over it now, or I'm working towards getting over it. But I feel like I'll just go into games and sometimes I'll think, oh, I'm going to lose. Why am I this far? I must be lucky. And in some cases, yeah, I'm lucky, but I get to where I'm at for a reason. I am a decent enough player. I don't want to sound arrogant, which is why I don't want to which is why I feel awkward developing confidence, because I feel like there's a fine line between being confident and arrogant. I don't want to say, oh yeah, I'm so good, because I've definitely come across someone in Showdown who thinks they're the shit. They're not the shit. Well, they are kind of shit at playing. Rambling, anyways. But I just need to improve my mentality, because I feel like in terms of playing, my playing is okay, but I feel like I'm a little bit doubtful of myself, and I just need to be better when it comes to those terms. Anyways, with that rant, would that even be a rant? Last mon, Registeel. Alright, so it's 182? No, it's not. It's 106. I think what I wanted to do originally is like this 256, because if I have the Vine Lash tick, it would be 1/6 of my health, but since I do -1, it would truncate down a little bit, so in theory I would take like less Vine Lash damage, is what someone suggested to me in Showdown chat. So I went, okay, I'll try that with my Regirock, and then I just applied the same logic into this Registeel with the HP number. But I ended up lowering it a little bit because I realized my rolls were way better when I had 220. This lets me live Max Quake from Venusaur pretty much all the time, I believe, therefore I feel comfortable setting Amnesia up and whatnot, or I can protect, body press, whatnot, waste max turns. And then this is an important number because there's a specific instance spread. I feel like almost 236 HP and then the 100 defense or 116 defense. It was Wolf spread that he used in PC2, I believe, is what I was calculating for. But with this specific number, I always O-Cover and Incineroar after I get an Iron Defense up with Body Press. So that's why I personally like this number. I feel like this is a requirement. You want 156, and you get a bump number too. So personally, that's why I go for that number. And then the 132 is just, oh, let me figure out what I could use the 132 for. I feel the extra EVs for, could I make it optimal? And this was me questioning, should I go to 36 HP and then the special defense? It's also questioning speed. There's people who are running crazy amounts of speed on the Registeel so they could win speed ties, which is understandable, but same logic. If I get Trick Room up, then I can win the speed tie under Trick Room, which isn't a reliable strategy because they could likely just stall me out. But I felt awkward wasting EVs, and since I was running Amnesia, I may as well be super duper bulky and just try tanking opponents as much as possible, and this spread really did come in clutch. The downside is that ghost types wall you, but you could potentially timer stall them, and since these tournaments would be endgame, so I feel like I do need to keep that, and you need to keep that in mind whenever you're playing. One thing that did interest me though is, Sand 2. I know people were talking about it being really good. I do want to test it. I feel like that's super cool seeing the Santumon Registeel when Fevzi was using it on his Blastoise team, but I do really like the Amnesia, so I feel like that's just, for me, that's best as of right now. I'm not going to say Santum is better. I'm not going to say something's better if I haven't tested it. Amnesia is super clutch though for me because it helps me in a lot of endgames. So usually in DD Venusaur, you do all this damage, and then you can have something like Porygon 2 set Trick Room up, and then Registeel can just win because it has free setup in the endgame, or P2 with Torkoal, I get Yawn stuff and Heat Wave stuff under Trick Room, or I can do Indeedee Minu and DD die as Torkoal comes in, and I have speed control for Venusaur, and then I can Yawn into opponents, face fall asleep, and then I Heat Wave them, and then I could body press into the opponent and whatnot. Lucky if there's enough chip damage done, I can use E-webs, I can outspeed chip opponents, basically finish them off with my moves. And Registeel would always, not always, but it would be such a good final slot because then I could just set up and then they can't touch me because Registeel's too thick, you know what I'm saying? So, you know, it gets beefy, it gets thick, goes on solid bulk, and they can't touch it, and then I can just win either through timer or body press, either one could work. And that was basically the thought process behind the team. Hopefully I explained it okay. I'm basically just ending the team report here because I don't really know what else there is to explain. I do feel like I explained everything I needed to. I know it's a little bit late, however, I do believe these spreads are relatively applicable. I feel like the Venusaur spread, either this one or, hold on, it was 28, that's what it was. This one, I feel like those are universal spreads. I feel like you could use that in basically any format and it will be relatively good. So that's my thoughts on the Venusaur. I feel like you could use this pretty much any format Dynamax is allowed, it'll be good. Same for the Indeedee. You could go a little bit with special defense, but I typically find Max to just be pretty good. Torkoal spread I think is really, really good. I would use that. And my mom is home, so I'll probably have to edit this out. That's basically it. Alright, bye. I made this thing recently right here. I think it's right here. Okay. Personally, this gives me like Battle Revolution vibes, but tell me what you think. I think it's okay though. I feel like it's a good start. I'll shut up. So that's something I was working on. It's just a demo right now, but I need to expand it and whatnot. But doesn't it kind of give Battle Revolution vibes?